The rain fell in harsh sheets, drumming against the narrow alleyway like an urgent warning as the city lights flickered through the downpour. The world moved fast outside, cars rushing, umbrellas fighting the wind, people running to escape the storm, but in the forgotten corner of the street, where broken bricks lined the ground and shadows clung to every wall, a tiny voice trembled with fear. A little girl, no older than 5, clutched her mother's limp hand and whispered with a shaking breath that blended with the rain, "Sir?" "Mommy can't walk," the words sliced through the chaos like a desperate plea, halting the steps of the man who had been rushing home. Aram, the single-dad CEO known across the city for his unbreakable composure, his sharp decisions, and his guarded heart. But in that moment, he felt something shift inside him, something deeper than instinct, something that pulled him forward as if fate itself had reached for him. If you're watching this right now, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness, especially if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping someone when they need it most. Your support keeps these heart-touching stories alive. Aram wasn't a man who wandered into alleys or slowed down for strangers. His life had been a battlefield of responsibilities since the day he became a single father. Losing his wife had left a wound that never fully healed, pushing him to build walls so high that almost no one could climb them. But as he stepped closer to the little girl standing in the storm, those walls trembled. She was soaked, shivering, yet stubbornly shielding her mother's body from the rain as if her tiny arms could protect her from the world. Aram noticed the bruises on the woman's legs, the exhaustion in her pale face, and the silent suffering carved into her expression. Without another thought, something within him ignited a fierce, protective urgency he had not felt in years. He bent down, scooped the woman into his arms, and held her as gently as if she were made of glass. The girl followed, holding onto his coat, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and trust. The moment he lifted the woman, he felt the weight of more than just her body. It was the weight of survival, of silent struggles, of a life that had known far too much pain. The alley behind them seemed to fade into darkness as he carried her toward the safety of the streetlights. His luxury car stood parked just a few steps away, a symbol of privilege that contrasted sharply with the fragile reality he had just walked into. Yet in that moment, none of it mattered. The cold rain soaked through his shirt, dripping down his face as he placed the woman softly in the backseat and wrapped his own jacket around the little girl. The child's eyes reminded him of his own daughter at home, eyes full of innocence, yet shadowed by experiences far too heavy for their age. As he drove them to the hospital, the storm outside raged on, but a different storm brewed inside his chest. He kept glancing through the mirror, watching the little girl gently pat her mother's hand, whispering things Aram couldn't hear, though the emotion in her voice was enough to tighten his throat. He wondered who they were, why they were alone, what had pushed them into that alley on such a cruel night. The woman's breathing was weak, uneven, and every fragile rise of her chest made his grip on the steering wheel tighten. He had seen desperation before, in business, in negotiations, but never like this. Never so raw, so human, so painfully real. The hospital, warmth and light replaced the cold and rain. Nurses rushed to assist, lifting the woman onto a stretcher as the little girl clung to Aram's leg. She wouldn't let go, not even for a second, her small fingers curling into the fabric of his coat like it was the only safety she knew. Aram felt his heart twist. He crouched down, letting her lean against him as the doctors assessed her mother. He didn't know these strangers, yet somehow, he already felt responsible for them. Maybe it was because he knew the feeling of fear, of losing someone you love. Maybe it was because he couldn't bear the thought of a child going through the same heartbreak he had once watched in his own daughter's eyes. Hours passed with tense waiting, but eventually the doctor approached with gentle eyes and a reassuring tone. The woman was stable, though worn down by stress, hunger, and exhaustion. She had suffered for long, silently, carrying burdens heavier than her frail body could bear. Aram felt something shift again, an ache of sympathy, anger at the world's cruelty, and a quiet sense of determination. This wasn't just an accident or chance. It felt like a meeting written somewhere beyond logic. As dawn began to break, casting soft light into the hospital hallway, Aram finally learned their story. The woman's name was Alina, a hard-working mother who had been trying to escape the grasp of an abusive past. She had fought alone, struggled alone, shielded her daughter alone, until her strength gave out that night. The alley was the only place they could hide, cold, dark, forgotten. Yet it was where her path collided with Aram's, as if life had pulled them toward each other at the exact moment they both needed it most. In the days that followed, Aram couldn't walk away. He told himself he was helping for the sake of the child, that it was only temporary, that it was simply the right thing to do. But deep inside, he knew it was something different, something that scared him. He found himself visiting the hospital daily, bringing food, clothes, and toys for the little girl, who quickly began to blossom under his kindness. His own daughter, Noor, soon met the child, and the two formed a bond as natural as breathing. The mansion that once echoed with silence now filled with laughter, footsteps, and soft whispers of new beginnings. As Alina recovered, she struggled with gratitude and fear. She wasn't used to kindness, especially not from someone as powerful and distant as Aram. Yet each time he appeared with warm eyes and gentle words, her heart softened despite the walls she had built. She watched how he cared for both children with equal tenderness, how he carried responsibilities with silent strength, how he hid his own scars beneath a composed exterior. Slowly, she realized that behind the CEO title was a man who had known loss, who understood pain, and who refused to let anyone around him suffer alone. Their lives intertwined naturally, like threads pulled together by invisible hands. The little girl no longer feared the dark, she had found safety in Aram's presence. Alina no longer trembled at every loud sound, she had found comfort in the stability he offered. Aram no longer felt the empty ache of a lonely home, he had found warmth in their smiles. Healing didn't happen overnight, it came slowly, softly, like dawn creeping into a long, dark night. But it came one evening, as the children played on the living room carpet, their laughter echoing like music. Alina stood quietly near the window, watching the glow of the city lights. Aram approached, noticing the way her eyes softened, the way her shoulders relaxed for the first time in years. In that silent moment, something passed between them, a recognition, a gratitude, a fragile spark of something neither of them had expected to feel again. They didn't need words. Their shared journey spoke for them, louder than anything they could have said. Time continued weaving their stories together. What began as a stormy night in a forgotten alley slowly transformed into a new chapter, one filled with hope, healing, and the gentle possibility of love. Aram realized that sometimes the people who enter your life unexpectedly are the ones meant to rewrite the parts of your heart you thought were permanently erased. And Alina discovered that even after years of struggle, life could surprise you with kindness, safety, and the opportunity to breathe again. Not if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Your engagement means the world and helps us continue bringing emotional stories to you. Before you go, please drop a special comment below. Kindness still exists in this world. Your words keep this community alive.